I'm Luisa Boaretto. I'm the president of Little Scientist, and in my normal life, I'm also the global head for diversity, equity, and inclusion in a company that pioneers solutions for water and climate to challenge water challenges. I've always worked in the STEM sector, now with this manufacturing company and previously in a chemical company, even if my background is on economics, so I have more a finance type of background. In Little Scientist, I am the president of the board, and it's my responsibility to ensure that I have the oversight of Little Scientist direction and organization, and most importantly, ensure accountability towards all our stakeholders. First and foremost, the children that benefit of our programs and education, the teachers that help the children, of course, but also all the volunteering staff, the authorities we relate with, the company we're partnering with, the company that donates us, and making sure that we comply and we move ahead with our mission. That wouldn't be possible without the other board members, but of course, most importantly, with all the support and the time of the volunteering that are dedicating time and energy to Little Scientist. I had the opportunity actually to witness the power and impact on Little Scientist on my own daughter. When Caterina was 6 years old, she attended one of the first camps offered by Little Scientist. And I remember the excitement and the pride with which Caterina was coming back home and showing the first robotics creation or the Scratch programs she was coding. And that for me was amazing to see how much Little Scientist helped her to understand that her imagination, her dreams, can turn into something real and unlock the possibility of her imagination. Actually, there are two moments in my life where that was important for me to realize how important STEM education is. One unconscious and one conscious. The unconscious one has to do with my own education. I graduated from the high school, a scientific one, and I was about making the choice to go to university. And I was debating between mechanical engineer and economics. And eventually I chose economics, mostly because societal and family pressure. At the time when I had to make the choice, it was a kind of weird for a female to choose an engineer path. And for sure was a given that I wouldn't have all the satisfaction that my male friend would have. And for that reason, I chose economics. But if I would be allowed to go back, I would definitely choose engineering and kind of break that stereotype about STEM and female. The second one is more conscious, and it has to relate with my daughter. I remember when I was invited to one of the first kindergarten parents' evening, the teacher were proudly showing us the drawings that our children were making at the kindergarten. They were not really drawings because all the 3-4 years children has to do is to color some of those drawings, which were presenting future professions. And maybe not with big surprise, professions like doctors, astronauts, firefighters were all representing male character, while professions like teacher or nurses or moms were all representing, of course, female characters. And guess what? Female and girls were choosing the female characters, and the boys were choosing mostly the male characters. And that was a moment for me to realize how much stereotype in our society is, and how much those stereotypes and gender stereotypes, also about STEM professions, are established at a very, very early age and in total unconscious way. And that's when I really decided I need to do and step up and do my part in fighting this kind of stereotypes. To me, some of the STEM skills are essential for the future. First of all, it's about the digital skills and technological skills that will be needed in a future that is becoming more and more technological, and we see every day in our reality. The second point is definitely about solving some of the biggest challenges that the world has to face. Climate change, health, care, aging population, everything has to do with innovation that will need to be identified in order to solve those challenges. And then another one that to me it's very close is a so-called dream gap. In a society which is hyper-connected, where everything can be recorded, replayed, and stored digitally, I think our new generation are losing a little bit of imagination. They don't know what it means to imagine something that hasn't been created before. And STEM skills actually give our children and future generations that opportunity to really imagine something and then turn something that wasn't there before into something real. And that, I think, it's one of the biggest gifts that we can give to our children, to our future generation, but also to ourselves to create a better future. Little Scientist is joyful in its approach. I would say the biggest difference compared to other education methods is that we are not requesting children to learn. We're asking children to play, to experience, and to do it in a very intuitive way. So I think really we're giving children the opportunity to approach STEM matters in a very natural and diverse way, which makes them feel comfortable with this kind of topics. For sure, I can refer to one of the most relaxing birthday party in my life, which is when my 6-year-old son requested Little Scientist to come in and animate his birthday party. And for every parent who has small children knows how wild and loud those parties could be. And on the opposite, this one was very quiet and focused because there were approximately 12 children aged 5 to 7 who for 2 hours in a row were focusing and concentrating in creating the little robots and robotics. And they were so excited and in the flow that it was really a very pleasant experience. And that to me demonstrates how much STEM profession, but the approach also Little Scientist has, really connects with what the children want and are able to do. It teaches much more beyond the content. If we think about life skills, for example, resilience and perseverance, it's one of the key skills that is teaching. If we think about the fact that when we create codes, it's not always coming right the first time, and we need to continue, repeat, and learn through trial and errors, that also give a little bit of destigmatize what failure is. In a society like nowadays, which is performance-based, is a really good skill to teach. On top, it gives also the opportunity for children to deal and learn how to deal with frustration. Errors are there, things don't come in the first time good, and how to deal with that situation and continuously trying without just letting the disappointment to take over. Last but not least, I think what I call the grow mindset. Children start approaching STEM and, for example, robotics with Little Scientist in a very basic way, but of course their target is to create much more complex creations. And they know they will get there. They see colleagues and peers doing it. They know every day they improve in something. And that gives them that grow mindset that even if they cannot do something today, that doesn't mean that they will not be able to achieve it tomorrow. With the acceleration on technology and digitalization, and we see it in our society and we know it's here to stay, the best gift we can give to our children and future generation is the critical thinking, is the ability to really leverage those technology. Think about the large language model we are all utilizing nowadays in our work and really help to accelerate the things we do. But if we're not able to use them with a critical mindset, the risk is that we are going to be used by technology. And so we are not master technology, but we just consume it, which is not what we need for a brighter future. The future is technical and digital. And so it means we need to create a society where we have more STEM individuals that knows how to deal with technology, with digitalization, because that means more innovation, more solution for the future, and that create a better economy and prosperous society. But what I like on Little Scientist, and is fundamental for the future, is that it's going to become also an opportunity that is equitable, that everybody can have access to. And if we look, for example, at Little Scientists, there is an eye to make sure that girls and children with underprivileged background do have access to STEM education. So the future economy is not only more prosperous, but it's also more equitable. And that, again, can be achieved through more STEM, but also more intentional STEM with equality in mind. What got us here will not get us there, as many said. And we know that to address the current and future world challenges, we don't need an incremental change. We need a paradigm shift. And in order to do a paradigm shift, STEM is fundamental. And if we want to look at different examples, we know, for example, in the climate change challenges, it's all about the new technology to capture CO2 emission. It's also about creating energy from different sources like water and waves with the blue energy. If we look at the healthcare, we know that the future of healthcare is really personalized therapies. It's also the possibility of doing diagnosis years in advance before disease show up. And innovation is key. If we look at quantum computers and the speed with which they're able to, for example, help identifying new drugs, or if we think about vertical farming and the opportunity to save water and soil, those are all fields where STEM is essential in order to address those future and current global challenges. Little Science operates in many different levels. The most important one to me is the fact that it breaks a little bit the stereotype that STEM professions are only for certain type of profiles and children, while Little Scientist shows that everyone can access STEM content independently of their gender, for sure, of their economics background, but also the approach validates the opportunity to teach in different ways and match with the neurodivergencies that are part of our society. It also has the benefit of creating role models, which are so fundamental for children to see that if other children, whatever and whoever they are, can do it, also they can do. And the impact on families, on parents and relatives is also important because it automatically creates STEM ambassadors, which become ambassadors in the societies they live. One of the biggest benefits is to create a society with its true meritocracy so that everybody can have access to different types of opportunities, and breaking that stereotype that STEM professions are only accessible to certain type of profile or socioeconomic backgrounds. But it also helps to create individuals which are critical thinkers, that are able not just to accept the status quo, but really try to understand the reality that is happening around them and maybe challenge or contribute to create a better society. The biggest challenge, in my opinion, is the fact that people think or believe that STEM is only for certain type of profile or socioeconomic backgrounds. And that is really what Little Scientist breaks, because it demonstrates that there is zero prerequisite in order to approach what Little Scientists offer. It also validates a different type of learning. So not only using the traditional way of learning with teaching, but really allowing children to experiment, to play, to learn by doing. And last but not least is really create this meritocracy approach where everybody can succeed and continue, and it's part of a more equal society. Long-term vision for Little Scientists is to have maximum impact through maximum reach. And in order to achieve that, it means that every single child should have access to quality STEM education independently from their gender, from their background, or from their skill. The 3 to 5 years objectives are more related to making sure there is a geographical expansion so that Little Scientists can reach even more children and educators. It's also about improving and scaling the channels. And also granting financial sustainability so the Little Scientist mission can continue. I think we can do different ways in order to better support. And first of all, we need to stop thinking about STEM as a luxury or something that is only related to a few people who can afford it. But we also need to challenge ourselves and challenge our biases. If we, for example, think about the courses or the toys that we buy to our children, sometimes we put our own biases on it, thinking that STEM-related courses or toys are not for girls, for example. And that's what we need to stop doing. We need also to be very intentional in using the privilege we have, because we all have a privilege. And the first privilege we have is time. So it's how we are going to use our time, for example, to volunteer and support organizations like Little Scientists, but also our networks, our companies, corporate social responsibility budgets could be a great way where we can support the organization. It's also important that we as citizenship demand more and better. If we think about the school offer of our children, we can ask the school to really offer good quality STEM programs because they are important for the future of all our society. And if we can be role models, we shouldn't shy away from that role. If we are female engineer or we have a STEM background, we just need to say it out loud and show that it's possible as female, as male, as whatever our uniqueness to be that. And last, I would say we need to think ecosystem, which means it's not a matter of only thinking if and how can I support an organization like Little Scientists, but the real question we need to ask ourselves is, can I afford not to support an organization like Little Scientists? Can I afford not to create a better future for our children, but also the society we live and we will live in? So if we do all of that together, the impact is maximized because it's exponentially better and can reach more and more people around the world.